Good day, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation, Leviton Load Center is making homes more resilient and efficient, sponsored by Leviton. My name is Colleen Beatty, and I'm the senior editor at Electrical Contractor magazine. And on behalf of the magazine, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. And thank you for attending the presentation. Before we get started, I just want to quickly go over some housekeeping items. First, please note that today's presentation is being recorded, and we'll be providing you with a link to the recording after the webinar is over. So if you miss anything or if you have to leave early, that's okay. You can come back anytime and watch the recording when it works for you. The audio for today's presentation should be coming through your computer speakers or headphones. If you have technical difficulties, audio or otherwise, you can reach out to us with the Q&A module located on the bottom right of your screen. And of course, we encourage your participation in today's webinar, so please send us your questions. You can submit them at any time during the presentation using the Q&A module, again, on the bottom right of your screen. And we'll have time at the end of the webinar to answer all of your questions. There's also a quick survey that should pop up on your screen at the end of the webinar that we hope you'll fill out. Or if you'd like to fill it out sooner, just click the blue-green icon with the clipboard at the bottom of your screen to open it up. And finally, please make sure to stick around to the end of the presentation, because at the very end, we'll be doing a giveaway for a Leviton Load Center. Very exciting. So with all of that out of the way, I'd like to give a warm welcome to today's speaker, Justin Berghoff with Leviton. As Senior Director of Business Development and Product Management at Leviton, Justin is responsible for providing vision, direction, and customer focus in developing new business and market development opportunities for the residential business unit, and specifically for the Leviton Load Center. Justin joined Leviton in 2014 from an electronics technology startup in Atlanta, where he built out the team responsible for developing and executing the technology roadmap from the ground up. Prior to that, he was with Siemens in the US and in Germany in research and development, project management, and product management capacities. In total, he has over 21 years of experience in the electrical power distribution products industry. Welcome, Justin.
Hi, great to be here. Thank you very much, Colleen. I'm really excited to be here today and talk to this audience, especially made up of contractors, business partners in this industry, and again, to just continue to talk about Leviton's rich history of innovation. So again, today we'll kind of kick it off a little bit and talk some about the innovation that we've been working on, some of the things that the processes that we like to undertake, because I think they're really cool and it's a good story to tell. And then after that, we'll talk more about specifics for the load center and what the product is today and where we're taking it to the next level. And then show some interesting pictures about some installations and things and talk briefly about what we're up to next and some other cool things that Leviton is doing to help you guys and help your business. So again, we talked about me briefly. I've been with Leviton about 7 years now. Specifically brought on to build out this new Leviton Load Center business, which has been really exciting. To just such a great company to work for. So that's about it about me. But we'll talk a little bit about Leviton, largest family-owned electrical manufacturer in the United States. Been around for 115 years, so a very proud heritage of engineering and manufacturing. It's said that over 90% of the homes in the United States have a Leviton product in them. Our headquarters is where I'm at here in Melville, New York on Long Island. And our smart organization, so where we develop and manage our smart products, is in New Orleans, Louisiana. We make a lot of stuff. So about 2.5 million units a day, over 30,000 plus SKUs. And we're a global company, certainly located over 80 countries in the world. So I'll talk a little bit about our innovation. So our company was founded in 1906 by Isidore Leviton. He had a small business, a tinsmithing business, where he made gas mantle tips, those gas mantle tips that lit New York City. Shortly thereafter, a gentleman by the name of Thomas Edison came up with the light bulb, and our founder then innovated and created this pole chain lamp holder for that light bulb, which started to spread clearly throughout the United States and then globally. In fact, those bead chains that we use when those were used for dog tags in the World War I and II. Sorry, World War II. And then continuing that period of innovation, in 1960, Leviton was one of the first companies to introduce the solid-state ground fault circuit interrupter, and we continue to be the market leader in that realm. In 70, came out with the Decora opening. That's the rectangular type of opening with the paddle type of rocker. That was actually invented by Leviton and patented, and clearly it's spread since and to be pretty ubiquitous throughout the United States and found in most homes and in Canada. Home automation, Leviton got involved in that in the 80s, believe it or not, and continues to be a market leader. Now we're taking all those receptacles and switches and dimmers that we manufacture and taking those and putting in USB outlets, for example, the fastest charging USB out there today. And then about 3 years ago, then we launched the Leviton Load Center. And that's kind of what I'll talk to you about today a little bit. So how are we doing these things to make homes more resilient and efficient? It's coming up with these new products that make the livability and the productivity and the efficiency in a house a lot more convenient for a homeowner, right? That's what we all like to hear, is peace of mind, simplicity. So breaker panels are getting smarter and more informative, and I think the next generation of homeowners and expect these things to be connected. So I'd like to ask a quick poll of the audience.
Just give folks a few seconds to answer. Just let us know if you have smart lighting in your projects. All right. Looks like a good majority do.
Wow. Yeah, certainly do. Awesome. 71.4% do use smart lighting. I love it. So again, what does Leviton do? We have a whole home Leviton. It's kind of one of our themes that we talk about. We have this offering. Our width and breadth of the portfolio is it's just pretty amazing. You can start with the basic wiring devices, right? Receptacles, GFCI type receptacles, AFCI type receptacles. Then you can start adding lighting controls. So add some value. When you talk to dimmers, you can talk about sensors. So these things are big and happening pretty much all over the place nowadays. USB is becoming a norm. People are expecting those to be in there to unclutter their lives and provide much faster charging. Voice control. We see about 60% of our smart lighting projects have voice. They're linked to some sort of a voice assistant, believe it or not. And then staying connected in this increasingly tech-driven world. You saw 71% of people are using smart lighting systems, and that's only growing. So finally, and last but not least, what I'm here to talk about is really bringing that all together with the load center. It's the nervous system of your home. Your controls your full electricity. So that's really how you can tie this all together, and Leviton brings that full portfolio. So I'd like to start off and say, when we embarked on this journey of the Leviton Load Center, we knew we had to have a differentiated product. It couldn't just be another Me Too type of thing, because ultimately you're just going to end up competing on price. And we know, being in this industry 115 years, that electricians and builders and homeowners, they will ultimately gravitate to a better product or a better mousetrap, as we say. And so that was our fundamental guiding principle of this project, is we had to be a differentiated product that people saw value in. So how did we do that? We took a different, I'd say, path and we did a lot more upfront work. We wanted to understand what those users' pain points were. What are the customer needs? Instead of just starting off writing a spec for a new gray box with black breakers, we wanted to go out there, observe. We wanted to interview. We wanted to survey. We spent dozens of hours out in the field filming electricians doing installations. And we were just a fly on the wall. We didn't talk to them. We didn't want to change any of the ways they were doing these things. So that was really important to us. We found some interesting things, right? When you do an installation, you watch an electrician come to a panel. It's this big spaghetti mess of wires, solid copper wire that they have to sort through to try and figure out what to do next. Of course, as I said already, the scary gray box. We find homeowners are getting more and more involved. Builders want to have products that look better, even if it's a circuit breaker panel. So ultimately, we had all this data, be it observational, be it video, interviews, you name it. We came back and we sorted through it all. And that's really critical to the success thing here is we got to do it, and we did it individually, believe it or not. It avoids being together in a group and people gravitate to similar ideas. And ultimately, here's an example of one of our sessions. So we all have these various customer needs that we spotted during our observation, and we just started kind of whiteboarding things and putting them on Post-its and creating these affinity diagrams and grouping them together into certain themes, wire management being one of them, aesthetics being one of them. So taking all these ideas, we started coming up with concepts. And once we started to come up with these concepts, we said, great. So we at Leviton think this is a great design. We're going to go do it. No, we didn't. We created an advisory board, actually. You can see here, mostly electrical contractors, the primary decision maker when it comes to load centers. We had some builders involved, both some track builder as well as a custom builder, and then a developer that does luxury high rises. So this advisory board, we were able to take all these dozens of concepts to them in the beginning and show them, and even in the beginning, it was just pictures. They could give us feedback. Ultimately, we were able to, the next iteration, show them, plastic prototypes because of 3D printing. So these things that you can do nowadays make the development process so much faster. And quite frankly, this customer advisory board developed the product along with us. They were with us the entire way. I remember we had our first meeting. It was live in person at one of our experience centers. Then we did an interim one about 3 months later on an online meeting, then another live meeting, so face-to-face. So this group of people was really, really critical, and I'm still bounce ideas off these folks today. So very critical to the design process for us. So ultimately, where did we end up? We ended up with this Leviton Load Center design that's completely different than anything you've seen. And we focus in on a couple key areas. One, ease of installation. Absolutely critical. Safety. After all, it's a safety product. That's what any load center is designed to do. And last is approachability. Again, I brought it up now, and homeowners are getting more and more involved in things that they ever did in the past. So that was a big one for us. So I'll talk a little bit about some of these themes in more detail. Easy to install. So instead of wiring to each breaker, you're going to wire to these custom lugs in the panel. And your connection isn't actually made until you put that final breaker in there. You can see in one of these images, that's a real install. the electrician can pull, dress, and terminate each wire as they're pulling them. They don't need to pull them and then come back later and then try and sort through which breaker is which one. You can completely terminate the panel. It eliminates this mess of spaghetti-like solid copper wire that you have to go deal with. So it's much more streamlined. And in fact, we put our money where our mouth is. We could show you PowerPoints and brochures all day, but we paid a real electrician to do a side-by-side comparison of a competitor. We used a fully loaded 30-space panel, and we ended up being 25% faster. So now that's using a typical new construction methodology where you're going to do a rough-in and a trim-out. But most of our business right now is in new construction, quite frankly. You can check out this video. Just go to YouTube and search for Leviton's channel or Leviton Load Center installation, and you'll be able to see there. It's a quick side-by-side comparison. So again, saves a lot of time. And we know that electricians nowadays are looking for ways to get in and out of jobs faster while maintaining that same level of reliability and quality that Leviton is known for. So not only is it faster, it gives you the opportunity to do more with the same amount of time, especially considering how scarce resources are nowadays. Safety. Again, it's a safety product. That's what load centers are there for. They're there to protect your wiring, equipment, devices, family, and house from fire, shock, and all these things that can go on in your walls. So we were the first breaker to meet the latest GFCI requirements that came out in May of this year for UL. So Leviton, again, leveraging our market dominance in the GFCI world, we took that capability and we put it into our breakers. And basically what we do is we're powering your breaker on the electronics on the line side. So even if the breaker is off or tripped, the electronics are still awake, and it knows if it's working or if it's not working. So other manufacturers may allow your GFCI to be reset even without GFCI protection. Another innovation we put into the safety bucket is there's intuitive diagnostics. So we added color coding to the handles as well as the smart, I'll say, at a glance LEDs. And examples can be shown here. Normal operation, it's green. Over current trip, it's just a red handle. So, and then the LEDs are a lot more intuitive, AF and GF. This is really helpful for electricians if they need to go to a site or if they're on the phone with the customer. They can say, yeah, the handle is red and there's an AF thing lit up. So now breakers can trip in many different ways, right? So one of them being just overcurrent or short circuit. That's the way it was 20 years ago, but now it's an arc fault, different types of arc fault. So giving this information is just really helpful to assist in troubleshooting and if the need arises. Again, as I talked as well, so the contemporary aesthetic, it's just a better looking panel. And believe it or not, many may say, well, why would you go with this white when it's, it could be dirty hands working on it? Quite frankly, the idea to make the panel and breakers white came from electricians. They said, if you want it to be different and feel different, it should look different. So again, that's just another thing that using this customer advisory board kind of helped the evolution of the product. Also, we implemented rocker style handles that have these colors, as I mentioned before. Today, depends on your manufacturer. You may have to feel it to see which breaker is tripped or isn't. These don't. You can at a glance look and see which breaker is tripped in which position. It's easy to pick it out and turn it off and reset it in the event you have a tripped breaker. That was certainly one of the things we learned when we did our discussions around was people are terrified of their breaker panel sometimes. But these little steps, like adding this little color in the handle, really went a long way. And we're getting amazing feedback in the market. You can see here our panel portfolio. We have, I'd say, a pretty darn good breadth of portfolio now. Indoor, outdoor, a meter main type where you have the meter integrated and about 8 circuits, which is really big nowadays. The NEC 2020 requires a disconnect outside, and here is one of the ways you can do it, is having your main circuit breaker outside. And then the two on the right there are what are often called all-in-ones, where you have the meter socket completely integrated with the full load center. These are typically found west in what we call the UCIRC areas of the country. So pretty much anywhere west of the Rockies, this is a pretty typical installation, especially in the Pacific Southwest. And we continue to build out this portfolio today. Excellent. So next I'll talk about smart. We ultimately knew that we wanted to connect this load center. We had our Decora Smart portfolio that we had already launched, and we believe that the load center is going to be required to be a connected product with the next generation of homeowner. There's a lot of stuff going on nowadays when it comes to electricity and electrification, and getting that real-time data is imperative. So we also were told by our advisory board that oftentimes, most of the time, the customer is not going to have a smart panel. If they want to get smart, if they want to upgrade it, we do not want them to have to rip out the entire panel. They need to be able to easily upgrade. So as you can see here, you need to install a hub. That's what is gathering the data from the breakers and aggregating it and sending it to the router. And you just need to add smart breakers, which are the same exact form factor as the non-smart breakers. And ultimately, you need to connect it with the My Leviton app, which is the free app. What is IoT? It's a big buzzword you hear a lot. The Internet of Things. It basically talks about these objects that have sensors and processors and software that are the things that ultimately connect to the internet. They provide data and a lot of value, and that's what we're seeing a lot of, especially as Leviton continues to innovate here. Well, the question is, for an electrician, why should I care? You're going to be one of the trusted advisor that's the educated consultant and can offer customers that opportunity to upgrade. They're looking for you for guidance. And it's an easy extension of, you can go from a regular switch to a dimmer and say, why would you like it to be smart? You can add these additional 3 pieces of value to their life. And you need to start learning about this stuff. It's happening. The train is starting to leave the station. But it's good. It's a good thing. These kinds of customers are typically not always as price sensitive. It's lucrative work. So the ultimate installation can be a little more complex, but it's certainly a more valuable installation. Here's an overview of Leviton's current smart platform. We call the app the My Leviton system. So the My Leviton app. And you can see here, it goes from the load center to smart switches, dimmers, scene control, 4 buttons, fan speed control, easy to install plugins that you can easily hook up to lamps and receptacles. And then last but not least, you can see the one that's really cool that I love is it's the dimmer that's got Amazon Alexa embedded in it. So you can have it right there in your wall. You don't need to have another puck laying around. So here's some of the key factors I like to talk about for the Smart Load Center, which you can see, by the way, in the corner there, we won the Best Home Technology product at the Builder Show. Energy use. You can see your real-time consumption or aggregated consumption. You can enter your cost of energy and see that. You can see on that speedometer. You set goals of where you want your bill to be. I think it's imperative to start changing demand side electricity. You need that data. You need to understand what you're using and when you're using it and how much you're using if you want to make changes. Getting a one big lump sum bill each month, it's just impossible to go through it and make changes and see the real opportunities. And you need it real time. It's also very valuable for troubleshooting to be able to understand which circuits may be looking off. Why is the HVAC, using so much constantly, even when it's not that hot out? Well, maybe you have a leak, your refrigerant blew, your compressor is running constantly and it doesn't need to be. Control. Today, you can remotely turn off breakers. In the event something happened at home, you can remotely turn off your breaker because you've set up alerts and updates. So, of course, you want to know when and why a circuit breaker trips. That's the obvious use case. But what I think is more interesting is the load sensing capability of a smart breaker. So each and every breaker has sensing and metering on board. But there's no guessing what's on that circuit. You're not hoping that you're going to figure it out someday or some algorithm might figure it out. You know what's on the circuit because you've installed it and enrolled it as such. So you can set an alert to say, has my HVAC been running for 4 hours? Notify me. Has my refrigerator not been running for 4 hours? Send me a notification. So I think these are some of the really cool value-added things that having a smart circuit breaker really adds. In addition, since it's connected, we have remote firmware update capabilities. And what does that mean? So that means we can always make sure that you have the latest protection algorithms available. We have the capability to download trip signatures when trips happen and even troubleshoot them remotely. So super value added for electricians especially. So here's an example we like to talk about whole home Leviton and what the basket of goods is that we offer today. You can see here, you start with the basic home, all those things that you know Leviton for, all the receptacles, dimmers, you have your basic load center, USBs, GFCIs, electric vehicle, car chargers, and structured media centers. Then you can take it smart. You can put in smart lighting controls. You can put in smart load centers, and all connected to voice. As I said before, we see about 60% of our users connecting to voice, and I think it's growing. And then also what I have here, as I'm calling the electrified home, and that's these other items that we have out there. We don't manufacture generators or batteries or solar cells, but these are things that we're working on. And why do I say that? Because where are we going? I think the industry is going to beneficial electrification. And I like to call that electrification is clearly a buzzword that's being thrown around a lot, but it needs to be beneficial. It can't just be electrifying for the sake of it. It needs to save money over time, both in electricity and fuel. It needs to protect what everybody knows about it is climate. So pollution, the rising, carbon emissions that we're seeing with fuel and coal and certain different types of other, I'll say, fuels that we're using. And ultimately, it needs to benefit the utility from the fact that it helps manage demand side use, which is critical to them, especially as we see more and more things coming out that are electric, like EV cars, for example. If you add 2 EV cars, that's a lot of amps. And it's a challenge for our grids to keep up, but it's going to start happening. So we got to be ready. And of course, Leviton, being in that home, market leaders in electricity for years and years and years, is on the forefront there. So I'm going to show you a couple cool installations, just as an example of some things that we've done. The gentleman on the right was actually, we did a This Old House installation. It was a real installation. And that's what that image is there. We've also had some success in multifamily. So you can see here, this is a student housing complex actually in Austin that we won. And you can see some of the installations there on the left. Here's another multifamily that's kind of a live, work, play idea up in Boston. So 320 units. We'll do another quick survey.
So we'll just give folks a few seconds. Let us know if you see the value in smart breakers, connected load centers for your customers. All right. Looks like we've got 100% yes.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that because I agree. And then another one that we're starting to see a lot of is builders. They're starting to standardize on us. This is a builder in upstate New York. You can see that installation there. It's a work of art. And they've actually standardized on the door, the see-through window door, which I'm sorry, I'm not. There's the window door that they standardized on right there, and it's become a conversation piece for them. So really cool story. Those are just a few examples. So again, I wanted to talk to you about a little bit of more things that Leviton's doing to help contractors that are really our partners and a huge focus for Leviton. We've created a new portal called Contractor Connect, and here you can find a wealth of information, installation information and programming to help you with SMART. What are some of our newest, coolest, latest products for you to try out? As well as we have information about the National Electric Code and updates that are happening there. So that's really critical in our industry, we know. So Leviton's very much involved in the National Electric Code, and we'd love to communicate that with all of our contractor partners. Then for SMART, so we're trying to build this out a little bit more, and it's been a great program so far. As we've created a My Leviton Pro SMART support kind of a program. You can also access it via the Contractor Connect portal. And what we're doing there is kind of providing some benefits to some of the contractors that get on board with this program. If you have technical support issue, you get escorted to the front of the queue there. Ton of support articles that are available, really easy trainings to help you learn and help your teams learn. And so really that's the key there, is just we want the customer experience with Leviton to be the best. And we feel that support is a key part of it. So it's not only having amazing products and our sales force and marketing materials, but it's that after sale support that's so critical, especially as products are getting more and more complex. In addition to joining the My Leviton Pro program, there are awards available for it. You don't need to submit anything. If you go and install an applicable device in a homeowner's home and then you enroll it, you automatically get rewards and points get added to your account automatically. And there's a dashboard to see those points. Excellent. So here's a couple things, to keep connected. There's tech support information here, online trainings on our Easy Learn portal. There's a ton of great stuff there. And then, of course, the Load Center website and accessing the My Leviton Pro program. Okay. So I think that concludes it for today, Colleen. So we could go ahead and type in the name for a giveaway, and I'm pleased to answer questions.
Yeah, we'll just leave this poll up for a little while. If you want to enter the giveaway, just add your name into the text box and hit submit. So let's get some of these fantastic questions. We got a lot of great questions, a few compliments for Leviton's products as well. Let's see. So is there a lifetime on how many times the circuit breaker can be turned off? Do they use digital contractors?
No, it's right now off. It's you're remotely tripping the breaker, and it's basically it's based on how often a breaker should be able to trip, which is UL program. It's thousands of times, and it varies by amp rating, but typically 5 to 10,000 is a common amount. So you're probably not going to ever get there.
Okay. Can each breaker provide power usage info individually, or is it just status information?
Yeah. So the metering is on board each breaker. So that's each breaker separately. So whatever's on that circuit, and you can name the circuit, you're getting all that data from each individual breaker.
Okay. Are there AFCI breakers available for these Leviton load centers?
Yes, we have AFCI breakers and dual function AFCI, GFCI breakers. So the breaker portfolio is pretty much everything you need.
Okay. We have a couple of questions about where people can get the load center.
I lost connectivity.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you. I can now.
Okay. I'll ask the question again.
Okay.
There were some questions about where people can buy the Leviton Load Center.
Okay.
For example, big box stores or...
Okay, sure. Sorry about that. Yeah, we lost connectivity for a moment. What I would do best to get information is go on to our online form and fill in your information, and then we'll get your location. Then we can direct you somebody to either a local salesperson that could send you to a distributor, or we are in about 250 Home Depot stores nationwide right now, as well as you can get them online as well.
What is the price range for this product?
Okay, so I guess I'll call it the standard line, is priced in line competitively, right, with the competitive premium lines of breakers. So that's how I would say for the regular line. Smart breakers in the hub, they range. It depends on what you're buying. 20, 30, 40 bucks. The more, it depends. They vary. But we've seen a lot of people, in lieu of filling up their entire panel with smart breakers, picking out 4 or 5 critical circuits that they want to have smart and doing it that way. And then you can upgrade over time if you'd like.
Fantastic. Does the load center integrate with a solar panel system?
So right now we're working on various integrations. Today we're not integrated with anybody in particular. I will say there are a lot of things going in motion right now. So stay tuned.
Okay. We still have plenty of time for questions, folks. So please keep submitting your great, fantastic questions. What different size panels will be available? They give some examples of 100 amps, 150 amps, etc.
Okay. So yeah, right now we've got from 100 up through 225 amp panels. So in various sizes, indoor panels, we go from 20 spaces all the way up to 66 spaces. And then outdoor, we've got a variety of sizes as well. And the portfolio continues to grow. So I welcome you to go to our website. We keep our line card up to date. The version on the internet is always the most up to date. But so I invite you to go check out what we have available there.
Okay. Here's a question that's probably on a lot of folks' minds. With all of the current supply chain issues right now related to the pandemic and other things, how is this going to affect, or how is it affecting the availability of the load center?
Fortunately, we've been pretty lucky on many of our components. We do see some gaps here and there, and we're seeing it mostly in raw material, believe it or not. That's kind of sending this whip effect throughout the whole supply chain. But as of today, we're in good shape.
Well, that's great to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does the remote app tell what's connected to a particular breaker?
It doesn't know. You have to kind of designate what's on each circuit. So it's not. It doesn't have an algorithm to guess if it's a toaster or something like that.
Okay, that makes sense. Got a few repeat questions. Give me a second. Will the breakers fit into other panels?
No, since it's a completely different installation concept, they only work with Leviton load centers.
Okay. Can the breakers be reset remotely?
No, they cannot. As of today, if you turn it off, you're going to have to you have to turn it on manually again.
Okay. Gosh, so many great questions, guys. Thank you. I don't think we're going to be able to get to all of them today. So just as a note, if we'll make sure that all of your questions get to Justin, and he can get back to you as he has time. Are the circuit breakers adjustable? Do they have adjustable settings in terms of amps?
No, they're not adjustable. They're all fixed amp ratings.
Okay. Is there a main surge suppression, or is it a breaker space? I apologize. I don't know what is meant by that.
So I can take it. So Leviton manufactures a line of surge protective devices that we have that are panel mounted, but we actually just recently launched a circuit breaker type version So it's just a 2-pole style breaker. So it takes up 2 spaces. However, we integrated 2 breakers, 2 single pole breakers in there. So for example, we have one, it's got whole home surge protector and 2 15-amp breakers, or a 2 20-amp breakers version. So you're actually not losing space in the panel.
Okay. What are the voltage limitations of the load center? And they ask specifically, is it compatible with 120/208 volts?
Yes. So so they are 120, 240. That's the standard residential. But if you get into a 3-phase application, which you'll see in multifamily, when you get to the unit level, it'll be 120, 208. So yes, they do work there.
Okay. Let's just take questions for a few more minutes. So many great questions. Are these load centers, are they industrial grade, or do you offer an industrial grade line?
The line right now is solely residential.
Okay. Does the load center report a trip to the app?
Yes. If the breaker is smart and it's a connected breaker, you will get a notification of the trip and the type of trip. So if it's an overcurrent or if it's an arc fault, so yes.
We have a couple of questions about how the load center compares to like other similar products from other brands. I won't name names, but I'm sure that you can think of some examples. So
I would say the primary differences I kind of talked about. So the biggest, I think, especially for electricians, is the installation concept that we really took and to the next level. So that's a huge one. The other manufacturers, although they have plug-on neutrals, those have become pretty much the standard now. So the pigtail idea is pretty much gone. However, you still need the wire directly to the breaker. So that's a huge one. Then the safety features of how we're meeting the GFCI standard for end-of-life protection. And then, of course, some of the simple things like the aesthetics and the LEDs and the handles that show that at-a-glance view for the homeowner is really, really huge.
Okay. Is there, excuse me, is there a safety protocol to prevent the wrong breaker size from serving a branch circuit?
Not a safety protocol. I mean, it's the same as installing any other manufacturer. The electrician hopefully understands if they're putting in a 14 gauge, they should use a 15-amp breaker, or so that's the assumption there. It's as similar as other folks do. Once it gets out into the field, it's a challenge. But no, there's no specific rejection feature.
Okay. Is there a cost associated with the partner portal?
No, there is not a cost associated with the cost. It's free.
Fantastic. I'm sure folks love to hear that. And let's do one more question. Are these load centers made in the United States?
The load centers themselves are not. They are made at our manufacturing facility in Mexico, although Leviton manufactures a ton of stuff in the United States. These are made in Mexico.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time. There were so many fantastic questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. when I mean a ton, I mean a ton. So we really appreciate your engagement with the webinar. And if you haven't already, please feel free to put your name into that giveaway for the Leviton Load Center. So thank you, Justin, for a fantastic presentation and for answering so many questions. I'm sure our audience appreciates it. And I want to thank everyone for attending as well. Please don't forget to fill out the survey when it pops up at the end of the webinar, and be on the lookout in your email for the recording, a link to the recording. That should be available soon. So
Great.
Thank you again. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the day, and we hope to see you at a future webinar.
Thank you very much.